Hi, this is Louise Manning here from the Royal Agricultural University, and this is the next video that supports our series of webinars around emerging themes in food supply chains. So what are the key themes we're going to cover in the video? We're going to ask the question, what makes a food system smart? We're going to think about the advantages and the disadvantages of developing smart food systems. And then we're going to ask the question, does being smart help either a food business, a regulator, or the consumer make better decisions? What makes a food system smart? Well, smarter food systems are informed by data. They allow the individuals in that supply chain to make better decisions, and improved decision making will make food systems and food supply chains more productive, more integrated, less wasteful, and ultimately more profitable. Why is that important? In a world of rising global population, our supply chains and food systems need to be more efficient in how they use the resources to produce and deliver food. We need to think more clearly about how we deliver food to consumers, when and where they need it, and how we make the whole process more sustainable. And that lies at the heart of a smart food system. We're all familiar with how our lives have changed with the advent of the internet and with the development of smart devices. Smart living, especially in urban areas of the world, has allowed individuals greater access to information and resources and has enabled people to live more productive and valued lives. And when we think of this term smart, we're using it and applying it to a whole range of areas, anything from smart cities, smart homes, smart appliances, smartphones. And now we're considering how we develop smart food systems. So let's answer that first question. What makes food systems smart? Well, smart food systems use technology and the data that can be collected to make food safer and more consistent in quality. This will ensure that they meet both their business customer and consumer requirements. By making safer, consistent food, this allows production to be more efficient, more integrated, less wasteful, and ultimately more profitable. Better access to information by all people in a food supply chain will allow individual businesses and consumers to be able to identify how food is produced and grown and how that food has moved, often across the planet, to reach the retail shelf or be on the food service menu. And all of these activities are being undertaken when the requirements for food, not only in terms of safety, quality, but also its sustainability, are increasing across the world. We see explanations about being smart in supply chains right across the media. Anything from how do we develop food policy that is smarter and less costly to implement? How do we develop smart borders so we can move food more freely from one country or trading bloc to another? How do we develop that frictionless trade, which means that consumers can still access the variety of foods that are available across the world, but we can do so without being challenged in terms of key food safety and quality information? And there's also a real drive for smart contracts. How can we make sure that the information that is being provided for given ingredients we might receive in a food business, how can we make sure that that data is valid and has not been interfered with in any way? As we consider all of these external challenges around a food business, we can consider what a smart food system can deliver. Over the last 15 years, we've seen a revolution in how smart applications have been applied from field all the way through to the domestic fridge in our kitchens and the smartphones that we are using more and more to purchase food. All of those applications allow us to gather a whole range of data around how food has been produced, how it is then manufactured and processed, and how consumers are purchasing food on a day-to-day basis. All of that information should help us to make supply chains more efficient and to be able to reduce food waste, which is a significant challenge across the world. We are seeing smart devices being implemented right across the food chain. And these technologies include sensors and indicators that can identify the status of a field or a growing environment in terms of the nutrients that are available, the amount of water or temperatures, the manufacturing process itself, and the food. So it can identify whether a food is safe or whether there are chemical changes within that food that will affect safety or the shelf life of that product. We use data carriers such as barcodes that can identify valuable information that can move with an ingredient or a food through the supply chain. We can use radio frequency identity tags, RFID tags, which again can provide valuable information that with the appropriate scanner we can identify an individual animal or an individual batch of product and all the activities associated with how that animal has lived its life, or indeed how a batch of food ingredients have moved around the world. And we can also develop a whole range of anti-counterfeiting, anti-tamper and anti-theft devices, which we're seeing a great rise in across food supply chains as businesses try and combat food fraud and misrepresentation. One of the challenges with all of these technologies is how we draw all the data together and then use that data to inform decision making in a meaningful way. So we spent a bit of time talking about smart food systems and how the development of technology can then in turn provide food business managers with more information so that they can make better decisions. Having more information and being able to share that information can strengthen supply chains and supply chain relationships. Procurement managers will be making decisions based on valid evidence. By having greater data, we can identify whether an investment is worth making. We can see the benefits of investing in our supply chains in terms of improved productivity and resource management. We can demonstrate how we are engaging with many of the issues that society feels are important and how we can gain greater societal approval for many of our food production methods and also add value to those foods in return as we can develop transparent supply chains. And if we are delivering in terms of efficiency and productivity and profitability, we can increase employment and business growth in food supply chains. Whilst there are many advantages to developing smart food chains, there are also disadvantages. One of the most secure ways of recording data is with a paper and pencil, providing you don't lose it. The minute we start digitizing data, we then have the vulnerability with regard to security, cybercrime, and data loss. So it's really important as we embrace smart food chains that we do ensure that we have appropriate systems in place. And our data is important not only to us, but to our competitors and also to wider society. So it's really important that we can demonstrate that we keep data safe and secure. So why go to all the trouble of developing smart food systems? Well, it's so that we can inform decision making and develop strategic risk management in our businesses. First of all, we need to set the standards for our business and the supply chain as a whole. We need to consider the scope of those standards: food safety, food quality, food waste, wider environmental issues and societal issues. Once we've set those standards for what we wish to cover within our smart food systems, we then need to think about how we are going to collect data. Once we collect that data, we then need to develop an information management system to manage that data and turn it into information. Once we have appropriate information, that will inform our risk assessment and in turn our strategic decision making. As a result of our strategic decision making, we can then reflect and identify potential areas of system improvement, and then within a strategic risk management process, it will then reinform the original standards that we set. And that is where smart food systems lie at the heart of an effective and profitable food supply chain. So in this short video, we've covered 3 key questions. What makes a food system smart? A smart food system is a system that can identify what data it needs to collect, how to turn that data into information, and how that information then can inform strategic management within that business. And also how, having undertaken a series of activities, there is a clear feedback process which informs the whole process again. And it's really important we think about that when we are developing our food systems. What are the advantages of smart food systems? They inform better decision making, but we've also identified that there are some disadvantages that we need to be aware of, and data security and addressing the vulnerability to cybercrime sit very high in our strategic response as we make our food systems smarter. Does being smart help a food business, regulator or consumer to make better decisions? If we have the right information and that information is valid, is appropriate, and is representative for our business, it will help us to make better decisions. A regulator can move from one-size-fits-all regulation to risk-based regulation if they have the right information and understand the risk associated with particular food businesses. And being able to access information will help consumers to make better decisions. So there are many factors that are influencing food supply chains right now that are driving them becoming smarter. In conclusion, we've covered some of the aspects of a smart food system in overview, but it's really important that we remember that technology is only one element of a smart food system. It is how that technology interacts with people and how the interaction informs appropriate, valid, and effective decision making that will drive delivery of safe food and profitability for food businesses. So we cannot just focus on the technology without thinking about people and how they're going to apply it in practice. Thank you for listening.